right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Molly Rowland. I am live from ShePodcasts in Atlanta, Georgia, representing Heartcast Media, One Love Massive, and of course, Podcast Outfitters. I am sitting here today with Debbie Brilling of the Podcast World Tour, Debbie and other things. So let's talk about that a little bit. Debbie, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are.
I'm Debbie Brilling. I'm the CEO of the Auditory-Verbal Center located in Atlanta, Georgia. We also have an office in Macon, and we actually do teletherapy now to reach out to any child wherever the need is.
Which is amazing. So tell me a little bit of, what is the company or the organization's name?
Auditory-Verbal Center, and we are a nonprofit.
Okay, excellent.
And we teach mild to profoundly deaf children how to hear and speak without the use of sign language or lip reading. So they become independent communicators. We teach them the same way you and I learn to hear. Detect sound, discriminate, identify, comprehend, bringing it back out in a natural environment.
That's amazing. So tell me a little bit about how that started for you. What inspired you to do this?
Well, I have two children. They were both born profoundly deaf. I was told that neither one of them would ever be able to speak.
Wow.
Put hearing aids on for safety.
Right.
And to start sign language. We were going to live in a silent world.
Right.
And I did a lot of research, and I didn't like what I was reading. So I finally found the Auditory-Verbal Center. I like the philosophy that one day they're going to talk to me and I'll talk to them, and we'll understand each other.
Right.
So I enrolled in the program. It's not a school, it's a center, 1 hour a week. You go and get therapy. They educate the parent or the caregiver how to work with this child to teach them spoken language.
Right.
When the children graduate, they're age appropriate, expressively and receptively to a normal hearing child.
Wow.
Mainstream in a regular classroom. Well, my kids graduated, doing great, mainstreamed. In fact, my son went to Riverside Military Academy.
Oh, wow.
After they graduated, I volunteered on the board of directors, wanted to give back. And then next thing I know, they offered me a job. So I shut down my own company and went to work for the Auditory-Verbal Center, and I've been the CEO for 17 years now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's incredible what happens when we live a life of service, right? When we truly give back for the right reasons, the universe tends to, reward us in abundance.
Yes.
And I have no doubt that your days are probably filled with some challenges, but probably a lot of really amazing stuff.
It's feels good at the end of the day when you've made a difference in the life of a child.
Absolutely.
And when you see a child that doesn't know language and can't speak, and by the time like graduating, you can't keep them quiet. Chattering up a storm. And yes, the nonprofit world is challenging. You're always
For sure.
chasing money and everything else that goes with it. But, we're making a difference. It's like a miracle. We're changing a child's life forever. It's not a Band-Aid fix.
Right.
This is a life-changing impact.
Well, I really, resonate with that because I lived across the street from Gallaudet, and, I was just introduced to the deaf community and got a unique perspective because I lived there for 7 years. And it was really interesting in particular because, it's in Washington, D.C., and I lived on a street directly across. And so half of the block was like deaf kids, and the other half of the block was like native Washingtonians. And it was really just interesting to see just the whole dynamic, and like the kids that lived on campus in the nice houses versus the kids that were like literally dropped off. Mm-hmm. And it's a real problem in DC because there's a lot of people who are experiencing homelessness.
Yes.
Are kids that were dropped off at Gallaudet in the 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s even, because there was so little education in their families that they lived in a silent world completely. Right. And then were literally dropped off and never picked up again. And that just shattered my heart into a million pieces, and it just made me really want to understand the community more. Mm-hmm. And just watching the dynamics and seeing who the alphas were and who the speaker would be for all the groups.
Right.
Just showing them a little bit of love and acceptance. I got it back tenfold, and I even have a sign name, And it was just a beautiful opportunity to get a little bit of understanding, which is why I'm excited about podcasting, because I believe that listening is the revolution. And I think that if we can just listen to each other, we understand each other a little bit more. And that's where the real magic happens. That's where love exists. And it's so important to me. And so it's such an interesting, what you do is so relevant.
So now you get to see the other side because you didn't know this was an option.
I had no idea.
And most people don't. Why would you? But truly, every child, unless you don't have an ear, has options.
Right.
And they can learn to hear and speak. We just need to get the word out there.
Yeah.
And that's why this is so incredible to me.
Yeah.
To be able to share our news and what can happen.
Yeah, I think a podcast would be really relevant for you. Honestly, we chatted a little bit about wanting to do that. I think that would be really great. And that would also be great for the nonprofit side of things to help raise money. And I'd be happy to talk to you about this offline or whatever. But I have a lot of clients who are nonprofits, and they feel like they're tapped out with their donors and there's no more money.
Right.
But when you go back and you say, hey, I'm going to create content, I'm going to create high quality audio and video or audio on your behalf, I'm going to solve that problem. And not only am I going to create that content, but I'm going to publish it on 19 different platforms. And so your voice will be amplified and your content problem will be solved, and I'll do all the heavy lifting. All I need you to do is donate specifically to a media sponsorship for the podcast. And even your donors who are tapped out will suddenly find more funds because it's a different bucket. Marketing is a different bucket than philanthropy.
Yes, it is.
So you solve that problem, and a lot of people are confused by the barrier of entry. You're learning a lot about this podcast world, right? But it's a catchphrase right now. And people say the barrier for entry has been dropped and anybody can be a podcaster now. And I think a lot of people get confused because they think it's about the equipment. But this equipment has always existed. I mean, maybe not some of the phone stuff, they're making, but none of these microphones are new. That Zoom recorder has been out for 10 years. The price is still the same. There's nothing new happening in the equipment. The barrier was the distribution. Never before in our time have we been able to create content and then distribute it ourselves and self-publish on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, IGTV, Pocket Cast, whatever, right?
Right.
That is the barrier for entry. So when you can go to one of your donors and you can say, hey, not only am I going to create this content and I'm going to show you as the winner, we're going to push this on all these platforms, and the content is evergreen. So they're not just listening to it now. So maybe it gets 100 plays or 500 plays or 1,000 plays this week. But where's it going to be at 6 months from now? Where's it going to be at 3 years from now? That content still exists with their name on it, and new people are discovering it every day. So it's a legacy that you're selling to them, and you're solving a problem. And you'd be amazed how much more money you can tap from your donors that have already...
That's kind of cool. So you do the equipment, and you can also guide me.
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
I would really like to get into that because what we do needs to get out there.
Yeah. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit more aware of the deaf community than probably the average person from living in the neighborhood for 7 years.
Exactly.
So I had no idea. And there's a lot of, we touched on it briefly before the interview, but there's a lot of stigma with the hearing and non-hearing community and the cochlear. And I can't begin to say that I fully understand it, but I've witnessed it and I see it. And on some level I can understand, right? If you didn't get this training when you were younger and you're part of this group that's not really accepted by all the other groups, and now you're trying to break that group up. So I understand the knee-jerk resistance to that, especially if some of these kids have already passed that point,
Mm-hmm.
And so I get it, but I don't think it has. I think there's just a way to change it a little bit.
I would agree. Now that there's newborn screening in every state.
Oh.
Every baby born is tested for a hearing loss, a screener, before they leave the hospital. The problem is if they fail, they go for a follow-up, they get diagnosed, and that's where the breakdown is. Nobody educates them, hey, there's choices. You can do this, you can do this. Here's your different options for mode of communication. And so we're catching these kids at birth. They could be graduated by the time they're 3 years old. If they got in quick enough.
They got to get them in. Well, I would love to work on that with you because I think you have an important mission,
exciting.
And I think I can help frame it in a way that makes sense for you. And there's lots of options for us.
Okay.
But it's a great mission what you're doing. I'm glad
Thank
that you
you.
guys stopped in and I was able to do this interview with you. Debbie, it's honestly a pleasure.
Nice meeting you. Thank you for this.
For sure. You have a very powerful voice. I like it.
Oh, good.
You do. You have a deep voice.
I have a very deep voice.
Do people
yes.
call you sir on the phone? Because they
All
call
the time.
me too.
All the time.
Like 3 times a week. Like it's not even. I don't even get upset anymore because I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
that's me. Yes.
That's right. Don't
I'm
call
the same
me
way.
anymore.
You go through the drive-through. Can I help you, sir? Yes. Oh well.
I only get mad when they have my name, and I'm like, how many Mollies do you know
That are a guy.
that are a dude? Like,
Yeah.
come on, man, pay attention. And
Same-
then they're like,
same with
oh
me.
God, I'm sorry. Yeah, right.
But
like,
you know, there's advantages. I can pretend to be Jonathan all the time
No,
and take care of his business for him.
I've definitely played that role with roommates and boyfriends
Yes.
where I'm like, yeah, this is Eric. What do you need? What do you need?
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, Debbie, it was a pleasure talking to you. I look forward to many more conversations.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And where can people find the academy? Like, how can people reach out and support?
They can go to our website, www.avchears.org.
Okay. That's super simple. I like that. Smart. Excellent. Well, you heard it, folks. Check out Debbie's organization. Show some love. Consider donating. Most importantly, if this conversation resonated for you and you know anybody in the deaf community or anybody who's going through this or has some questions, like share this content with them. Share that website with them. You know, knowledge is power, right? Let's spread the good word. Let's help Debbie reach some more families, change some more lives, and make the world a better place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.